presents Facing Addiction Podcast.
We have a whole generation that we've lost to fentanyl. Just last year, 100,000 people.
You know, even though I didn't want to believe that it was happening or
to respond in healthier ways so that we could give them the best chance that we could.
Hey guys, welcome to the Facing Addiction Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Tisdale, the founder and CEO of Pinnacle Peak Recovery. On today's episode, I'm bringing in a good friend of mine, Marcus Clark. Marcus and I have been in recovery together since pretty much the beginning for me. So I've known Marcus for a long time, and he's got a great story, has some great recovery insight. So Marcus, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Really excited to have Marcus on the show. Marcus and I go back a very long time. We both got into recovery around the same time. And so on this season, we're just talking about people's individual journeys, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So if you just don't mind introducing yourself and telling the people your journey.
My name is Marcus Clark. I've been sober since March 10th, 2011. And it's been a journey, man. It's been a really cool journey. I love it.
Oh, yeah. So where are you from?
That is a tough question, man. I've grown up. So my mom had me when she was 15 years old, which is so weird to think about. Like, my mother was a sophomore in high school when she had me. Like, that's so young, right?
Yeah.
I spent a lot of years in Mississippi, Texas, Indiana. I was born in Gary, Indiana. And I would say, if you ask me where I'm from, I spent most of my life in South Carolina, 4th grade through some college. So that's pretty much where I'm from.
What did your addiction look like when growing up? Like just experimenting and then...
So, man, that question, if you would ask me that question, March 10th of 2012, it would have been a different answer. If you would ask me that question, March 10th of 2015, it would have been a different answer. If you would ask me that question, March 10th of 2020, it would have been a different answer. The longer I've stayed sober, the more different my experience of childhood seems. Because everything is reflecting on how I am today. Mm-hmm. So when I look at that experience in 2022, going into 2023, it's just very different, man. I would say my first addiction was like acceptance. Like when I really look at it, like I just wanted to be a part of. And I was talking to somebody about this. It was like, and a lot of people in sobriety can relate to this, or people in addiction, or people out there struggling, or people who want to make a connection with somebody else. The thing that I wanted was acceptance. I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to feel like my life mattered. And it looked, when I was growing up, I felt like, and I don't know if you ever felt this way. Maybe this is your experience, and maybe somebody out here listening to this podcast, it's their experience as well. My experience was that it felt like everybody else was given a playbook to life, and I wasn't. And I tried to do and mimic what I saw other people do. And I did the things that my parents told me to do. And I never felt like I fit in. I never felt like acceptance never is a big word. I rarely felt like I fit in. I rarely felt like I was accepted. And I rarely felt like I had any connection to anything. Like from the 5th grade, since I was 5 years old, like I felt other than. Like my experience in life was that I felt other than. I moved around a lot growing up. I was a Jehovah's Witness. Don't laugh at me. You can laugh. I get it. I was the kid knocking on your door trying to deliver you to Watchtower. I grew up in a Baptist church. My parents didn't really believe in religion. And I was raised by, my mom, she was 15. So I was raised by my grandmother, my aunts. I was raised by a lot of my family. So I always was moving around. And I never truly felt like I fit in. And I would say the first thing I was really looking for was acceptance. I just wanted to fit into people. I wanted to feel like I wasn't standing out. I wanted to feel like somebody cared about me. I wanted to feel love. And it had nothing to do with my family. Like, they loved me. I just couldn't feel it. It was impossible for me to feel it. I would steal stuff and then take it to school and give it to kids. Literally, I would take stuff and then I would go to school and I would give it to kids so that the kids would like me.
Just I felt like, over.
Yeah, I felt like the only way you'd like me is if I did something for you. You wouldn't like me for who I was. Like, that thought process didn't exist. So I was always looking for acceptance. So of course, right, I played sports. You know, I was trying to be an overachiever. I was really smart, but I had to hide it because I grew up in neighborhoods where if you were the smart kid, they picked on you, right? So I would try to hide it and I would do my best to fit in. And that first time I got loaded, it was like the world made sense. This dude says it, man, that I know. He says, being a drug addict, being an alcoholic is like being trapped at the bottom of a pool, right? You're fighting for air. You're fighting for air. You're fighting for air. You're fighting for air. You know, when you play dunk with the kids and you be dunking each other in the pool and they hold you down too long and you're like fighting to breathe, right? And you're fighting for air. And then the question always arises whenever I talk to somebody new or I talk to a family, I ask them that question or give them this example. And then I ask the person that's struggling with addiction that question. And I'm like, you're fighting for air. You're fighting for air. You're getting held down at the bottom of a pool and you're fighting to get air and you're fighting to get air. What will you do to breathe? And then the answer is always the same. Anything. Sorry, mom. Sorry, dad. Sorry, kids. Sorry, law. Sorry, dignity. Sorry, self-respect. Sorry, dreams. Sorry, hopes. Sorry, everything. Because when I wake up in the morning, it feels like I can't breathe. And then I put that substance in my body and I'm just like, oh, everything seems right in the world. And that's the thing, man. Like that first time I got loaded, this dude said it best at this H&I I was doing. He said I was 12 years old the first time I took a drink and I needed that drink. And I was 12 years old the first time I took a drink and got high and I needed it. And it didn't matter. I didn't need your acceptance anymore. I didn't need to feel like I fit in. I didn't need to achieve. I didn't need to do anything for you. The minute I put that substance in my body, everything it was like the volume had been on high my whole life and I didn't know it. It was like I had no idea that it like there even existed. It's like I always give that example. It'd be like if like you were only lived in Phoenix your whole life. And then you're like, dude, Phoenix, this is it. Life sucks. And somebody's like, no, dude, there's a state. And you're like, what? A state? And then they show you the state and you're like, this is Flagstaff? Tucson? Like, what? This exists. And then they're like, oh yeah, dude. And they're like, there's a region. And you're like, what? They're like, yeah, Southwest. And you're like, California? Right? You're like, Colorado? Where did this come from? And they're like, bro, there's a whole country. And you're like, no. And they're like, yes. And that's what it was like. It was like that volume just was like, it was like, and I was like, oh. And everything felt right. I could dance. I was funny. I was cool. And more than anything else, it was the first time in my life that I truly accepted who I was, exactly the way I was, you know? And in that moment, I made a pact with the world, with myself, with that drug, with substances, is that I'll do this forever if it makes me feel this way. And that progression starts, it's on weekends and you're just doing it on weekends, right? But then you do it and it's that what we call that phenomenon of craving, that mental obsession piece, right? It's like the first time you do it, it's like, right? You're dancing, hanging out with your friends. Everything's right in the world. You don't care what you're wearing. Everything fits perfect. The people around you are the best. Conversations are so deep. Oh my God. The first time I smoked weed, it was just like, oh, so why are we here? Why does this exist? Who am I? All the questions you have. Yeah. And it was very interesting. And everything seemed to be okay in the world, man. And then you know what happens. You go to school that week and all you're thinking about during saving money, because all you're thinking about that whole week is the next weekend. Like all I could think about was the next weekend when I got to do that again. And then weekends became Mondays and weekends became Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then it became Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Then it became Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then it became Friday to Friday. And then it was all the time. And then it became a bigger issue than the problem that it solved, which was the internal condition that I had. It became externally a bigger problem than the internal peace that it gave me, And at that point, I didn't know. I'd never seen people recover. I didn't know that people got sober. I didn't know that if you tell someone who's done all the things, got the job, got the girlfriend, went to college, played the sports, won championships, looked for all the acceptance, dressed a certain way. I've changed my style at least 20 times, right? I've changed sports at least 3 or 4 times. I've won championships. I've dated girls. I've done all the things that people told me would be like, if you do these things, you'll find happiness, right? That was the playbook I saw, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't get the playbook. I just watched other people with the playbook and I tried to mimic what they did. And I mimicked it. I got the job. I went to school. I got grades. Why don't I still love myself? My parents congratulated me. Like, why am I still not happy? Like, why is it that no matter what I do externally, I can't find internal peace, Like, I could never just connect with the world. I would just watch people go to work and like hug their kids, pet their labradoodle, go to Starbucks, get a mocha chocolate, and they're just, keep the change, Beth, and I'm just like, ugh, like, how are you okay? What do you watch American Idol, bake a pie, pet your dog and go to sleep? Like, ugh, like that looks miserable, dude. It was miserable. Going to school was miserable without drugs and alcohol. Talking to people was miserable without drugs and alcohol. Like the world felt fake. It felt just synthetic. Like I got sober when I was 25 years old and I never lived one day until the day I got sober. Because I'd never experienced life the way that life was supposed to be experienced, My only way of like truly connecting with the world, truly connecting with people, and truly connecting with myself was by putting a substance in my body, and it turned the radio down low enough that I could find peace in what I was doing. And like we talked about, the external problems got so big that it was there was no more peace to be had, and it quit working as well. I know that's a lot of people's experience. It's like the drugs and alcohol didn't work as well, and I ended up at a place where I was at that jumping off point where it's like I can keep putting this substance in my body because I feel like I can't breathe, or I could just walk around feeling like I can't breathe. And walking around feeling like I couldn't breathe seemed like a better alternative than the external consequences that I was having, like stealing from people, lying, manipulating my family, doing things that I told myself I would never do, I had become somebody that I didn't even know anymore. And I'd run away from who I was becoming for so long that by the time I stopped any substance, I didn't even know who I was. I never sat with myself and looked at myself internally and looked at my mistakes and my faults and saw where I could do better. I blamed them off on other people. I made excuses for the mistakes that I made. I gave up real easy because I found like that when I put it, it changes me. My experience with life was when something's wrong, take a substance. When something's wrong, take a substance. When something's wrong, take a substance. When something's good, take a substance. When things are normal, take a substance, take a substance, take a substance. And then my experience before finding the substance was that things weren't okay. So it's like I got these two diametrically opposing viewpoints. Things suck without substances, and with substances, things are okay. Mm-hmm. That's all I know. So now you tell me no more substances? Like, and I'm going to be okay? No, I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to go to jail anymore. I don't want to steal from my family anymore. I don't want to look people in the eyes with that look of disgust. That watching people eat, Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm not a part of it. Watching people go to restaurants or go shopping, you know what it's like.
Yeah, no, I do. And I think a lot of people that don't have experience with addiction, they think, oh, well, your problem's drugs and alcohol. So you take away drugs and alcohol, problem solved, like just stop using. But the problem with a lot of us that are addicts and alcoholics is you take away drugs and alcohol and we're irritable, restless, and discontent. Some people become suicidal, depression. You just don't really you can't breathe. And so you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's a double-edged sword. So you really need like a solution to your recovery to get past that and have a life full of joy and peace. And it's not always like, it's a cliche like rainbows and butterflies, but it's like way better than the alternative, which is jails, institutions, and death. Wow, I'm just hitting all the cliches right now, but also
every cliche. You hit all of them.
Yeah. Like a couple of points that you made, it's like I could totally relate with kind of viewing the outside world in addiction and just like not even relatively like grasping how people are doing that. But I remember towards the end of my addiction, I was on an airplane and I was on an airplane. I was drunk. I was nodding out. I was leaning to the guy next to me, and he kept going like this. And I was probably like 22 years old and just probably smelled horribly and was drunk, like getting on this guy. I can't imagine how he felt. And I remember also like one row ahead of me, it was a father and his 2 young children, and me just thinking like, man, I want that. And I'm sitting on this plane doing illegal activities, like traveling to do illegal activities. And this guy is with his family, like traveling to maybe see their family or on vacation. And I just like, I wanted to stop living how I was living. But you were at the jumping off point.
Oh yeah. I was at the jumping off point. That's a good story. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I was at the jumping off point in my life, man. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't think I could get another job, or at this point I knew there was something different about the way that I experienced life than other people. And for me, that's what it was. It wasn't, I'm going to go to jail and like my life's going to be a mess. Like I didn't want that, but I knew that was an alternative, right? It wasn't that I wanted to achieve something special. It wasn't that I wanted to be somebody cool. It wasn't that I wanted to make a bunch of money. It wasn't any of that, man. Like for me, it was an internal experience, right? Like that, like feeling isolated. And I give an example, and people who struggle with what we struggle with, if you struggle with what we struggle with, if you can identify with anything we say, like, I just want you to know, like, there is a different way to live your life. And it's not an external life. Like the things that we talk about, the way that you'll see the world is very different. But it wasn't anything other than like, I just want to be okay. Like when I ask anybody at the end of the day, like what they truly want, people who struggle, is like, they just want to be okay. Right? Some people want external stuff, but when you really dig through all that stuff, it's like, what do you really want? And they're just like, man, I just want to be all right where I'm at. Like, I want to find peace. I want to be there. Like, there's nothing like sitting at Thanksgiving dinner with your family and people love you. Like you're surrounded by love, right? And you're just staring at the clock, because you want to leave so bad to go feel better. And it looks like we're selfish. It looks like we don't care. And if you knew how much we truly cared and how much like, I wanted to help. I just wanted to get my sister a birthday present and show up to her birthday party. But I couldn't. Like, I just couldn't. Like the thought process of just going to sit around people that loved you and you couldn't feel the love, like, was just like, I'm good, man. So I ran. I just left South Carolina and I ended up in Florida. And from Florida, I literally ended up, I don't tell the story a lot, but I ended up in Phoenix, Arizona. I was living in Orlando, Florida. And I would look up top 50 cities to live in. In Phoenix, it's exactly how Phoenix would pop up all the time. Phoenix, Arizona. And I bought a Greyhound ticket and I got on the bus and I ended up in Phoenix, Arizona, man. On like, just like this internal trek, man, like find peace and happiness. Cause at that point I thought it was just the people I was around, the way I was raised, you know, I'm in the country. I need to go to a big city so I can find other people. Like I was looking for anything I could find to change the way that I felt. And drugs and alcohol weren't working anymore. So it was like time to go do a geographical, you know? And I got here, man, and I was at that jumping off place where it was just like, I couldn't continue to live life the way I was, and the consequences were getting so big. And I ended up in recovery, man. I ended up in rehab at Salvation Army. And it was the first time and Salvation Army was cool. There was a lot of good stuff about it. There was a lot of rules. There was a lot of structure. It was a lot of, you know, what we call ADLs, right? Daily living skills is what I got. But what I got the most were people who had found a life of contentment. it was like the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life, dude. Like people would come in, we call them H&I meetings, and they would bring in a 12-step meeting, right? And I would sit there and I'm just like, so who are you? And they're, oh, my name's Jay, my name's Brandon, my name's Alan. And I'm just like, Bill. And I'm just sitting in this meeting like, why are you here? Like I thought they worked for the rehab. I was like, the rehab pays you to come and like, you're a motivational speaker, right? I'd never heard of like recovery, 12-step, nothing. I've been sober since the first time I've been introduced in recovery. So at this point at 25 years old, I never heard of anything.
Dang.
And they're just like, oh, I'm here to help you. And I'm like, why? And they're just like, because this is what we do. And I would look them in the eyes and you could see the peace. I'm just like, you used to do what? And they're like, oh, I used to smoke crack. And I'm like, I never smoked crack. All right. So I got one on you, you know? Like, oh, I used to do heroin. I'm like, okay, wow. Like, that's bad. Like, and you're what? And they're like, oh, I own a business, got a family. I'm happy, content. I'll be back next week. You want to talk next week? And I'm just like, why do you want to? I don't have anything. And they're like, I don't want anything from you. You gonna be here next week? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be here next week. And I had this roommate. My first day, we used to have to fold our. I don't know the angle of this camera, so I might be off of it. But we used to have to fold our bed sheets to like military style, Salvation Army. So it was like the army. You fold your beds with like military corners, right? And my first day in treatment, I forget to make my bed. You got to make your bed. You don't make your bed, you're in trouble. I forget to make my bed. And this is a story for people who don't think they have something to offer somebody else when they're really new. I forgot to make my bed, and we had work therapy. You had to work 8 hours, do groups, do your workbooks, get a sponsor, work the steps, do all the stuff. Like it was such a packed day. And I get back from work after I forget to make my bed, and I'm like halfway through work, I remember, I'm like, oh, I forgot to make my bed. I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. I am in trouble. I'm like, oh no. And I get back to my room and my bed's made. And I'm like, and my roommate, right? Room 111, I was bed D, he was bed E. And I'm like, look at this dude, right? He's like 27, cool kid. And he is like, I'm like, hey man, did you make my bed? And he's like, don't worry about it. He's like, you got a cigarette? And I'm like, no. And he's like, here's a cigarette, man. And I'm like, why did you make my bed? Like, it didn't make sense to me. I was like, why would you do that for me? Second day, forget to make my bed. Come back, same story. Hey, did you make my bed? He's like, oh, I made your bed. Don't worry about it, man. You got a cigarette? And I'm like, it was the first time I'd seen altruism in action. And to me, this dude had forever sober, like 30 days. I was like, you got 30. Like, he was like the kindest person I'd ever met. And I picked my sponsor because it was his sponsor. It was that first time. That was like that first transition. So if you think you don't have something to offer, you do. And it's your kindness and your caring. And that dude's loaded now. And I'm sober 11 years. He saved my life. Yeah. And he'll never know it, you know? And that was that point, man. And for me, it was like that deep look at myself. Like I got the time to sit and pause. Money and a life and a girlfriend or a family or a boyfriend or a spouse or a career or any of that is a byproduct of my internal condition. Like I truly feel like that. If I'm whole, if I'm content, if I'm focused on my life to see what I can truly bring to the world, just trying to leave it a little better than the way I came in, right? Like in rehab, like I really started to make this decision, like, how can I be a positive impact on people's lives? It'd been a long time since like I would touch somebody's life and it would be better after I was in it than it was before I entered. Like at this point in my life, like, you know, right before rehab, if I touched your life and I became part of your life was definitely worse after, right? Like every way, mentally, physically, emotionally, for sure, financially, because I'm taking something or I'm using you to get some money so I can go get what I need. Your life was worse. And in there, at some point in treatment, I made this decision to be like, I want to make people's lives more positive when I touch it. First time in my life, 25 years of life before that decision really came. And not in a selfish way, not in a way like, oh, I want to do good stuff so you can see me doing good stuff. Not that, because that's not altruism. Altruism is absence of profit motive. I do it because it's what we do. Like, I truly made that decision because these dudes that came in this meeting shook my hand, said hi to me, bought me cigarettes when I didn't have anything, spent their time, the most precious resource that we don't know how much of it we have. I can go make a lot of money. Renewable. I can go make money tomorrow. I can make money on my phone, investing in stocks, and end up with more money than I had today, right? Like, money is easily replaceable. But the thing that is irreplaceable, I can't replace, is my time. I don't know how much of it I have. I'm giving my time sitting here with you. I might leave this room and get in a car accident. It's the last time somebody sees me. So am I going to affect Tyler in a positive way when I get to spend time with my boy and sit on his podcast and get to be a part of his life? I've gotten to watch your life change. I've gotten to watch you get a family and build a business and help a bunch of people. And even bigger than that, right? You employ people and those people have kids and you get to be a part of their lives. And you've built this life that now affects so many other people. You built this beautiful life around you that all these people get to be a part of. When I walk into your spot and people are like, oh, hey, what's up, Marcus? What's going on? Hey, I'm looking for, oh, he's upstairs. And there's a tour happening for a family who's about to hopefully get their life changed. That family's life can change. This could be that moment that everything changes for them. Everything. Their kid, they come to their house on Thanksgiving, on Christmas. Their kid gets sober and takes care of them when they get old. Like, the way we can touch someone's lives is so much more powerful than this moment, man. It's generational. And if I make their life better, then they go to Circle K and the lady's got a bad attitude and they're like, they smile at her and they're like, have a great day. And now her day's better. The effect that we get to have on this world is way more bigger than me just sitting in this chair talking to you, right? Maybe somebody sees this and they're like, dude, I connect with that. And now I get to have an effect on that person. Hopefully, maybe I but I will carry myself as if that is my goal, right? And it stopped being about me and it stopped being about trying to find something that I thought that I needed because I had it internally. There's this story and it really like messed me up. So there's this priest, and this priest has the answer to all of man's problems, right? Mm-hmm. And the priest has the answer to all of man's problems, and it's in this box, right? It's the answer to all of our problems. It's in this box. And this priest is like, this is too powerful for any one person to have. He's like, I got to hide it. I have to hide the answer to all of man's problems. So he goes on this trek. He takes the answer to all of man's problems. He sticks it in his sack. He puts the sack on his back and he starts traveling across the world to trying to find a place to hide the answer to all man's problems, right? And he ends up in this village with these three shamans, these three wise shamans. And he goes to these shamans and he's like, I have the answer to all of man's problems in this box. And the shamans are like, what? And he's like, I have the answer to all of man's problems and it's in this box. I have to hide it somewhere because it's too powerful for any one man to have. And the first shaman's like, I got an idea. He's like, take the answer to all of our problems and stick it at the bottom of the deepest ocean. Because if you stick it at the bottom of the deepest ocean, no person shall ever swim down there and find it. And the priest is like, I can't hide it inside the deepest ocean because if I put it inside the deepest ocean, somebody will swim down there and find it. And he looks at the second shaman. The second shaman, she's like, I got an idea. He's like, take the answer to all of our problems and stick it inside the deepest cave. Because if you stick it inside the deepest cave, no one shall ever go in there and find it. And he's like, I can't. If I stick the answer to all of our problems inside the deepest cave, somebody will go in there and find it. And the third shaman's like, I got it for sure this time. And he's like, what do you got? And he's like, take the answer to all of our problems and stick it on top of the tallest mountain. Because if you stick it on top of the tallest mountain, nobody shall ever climb up there and find it. And he's like, I can't. Because if I stick it on top of the tallest mountain, men have climbed mountains. Somebody will climb up there and find it. And the shamans look at each other and they look at him and they're like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, I got the answer. He's like, I'll take the answer. I'll take the answer to all of man's problems and I'll stick it inside themselves. Because nobody will think to look inside of themselves to find the answer. And that's what I learned. I learned to look inside of myself. Because inside of every man, woman, and child is a fundamental belief in something, right? And when I looked inside of myself, these people taught me how to think about other people, which caused me to look at myself. Because my goal of being the best version of myself, if it's just for me, short-lived. There's no win behind that sale. It's all about me again. At the end of the day, what can I get? What can I do? Right? Like the reason that you do all the things that we do, prayer, meditation, therapy, you know what I mean? Countless hours going to the doctor, taking care of my mental health, taking care of my physical health, calling people, picking up the phone, showing up to funerals, showing up when people die, showing up for your friends, showing up for sponsees, showing up for all the things that we do, all the countless nights that you spent looking at yourself or having issues and then working on those issues to have a stronger relationship, all of the conversations, the group therapy, the family counseling, right? Like all the things that we do to become better people. If the reason that I do it is for myself, then that win is short-lived. But when I do all of those things because I want to be the best version of myself, for when someone just asks me for help, that I get to play a small role in just showing up, then it makes everything that I do have purpose. And that's what the rooms taught me. First, they taught me how to heal. And by teaching me how to heal, it helped me change my world. Because everybody wants to be helpful to everybody else, right? But I had to learn to help myself first. That doorway is big enough for one person to fit through. I got to walk through the doorway first, do all the work I need to do on myself, and then I can go back out that doorway and start bringing people in the doorway. But if I'm not whole, I can be of no use to you. So today, my purpose is truly being the best version of myself to affect people the best way I can. And sometimes I can help and sometimes I can't help, but that's not my decision. The real question is am I willing to help? Am I willing to do the work on myself? And as a result of that, man, I see everything different. I see sunsets different. I talk to you different. I pay attention to your things you probably never even know I look at. And I got to go to your wedding. I get to be a part of your life. I get to see your kids grow up. I get to see this world in a different way. And it's not about the external. The external is extra. That's all extra. Welcome to America. You're going to get a car. You're going to get a house. You're going to get a job. It's all going to happen. You're going to be in a relationship. Most people are. You're going to make money. Most people that I know that are older have more money than most people I know that are younger, right? Like It's like magic. You go to work. Oh, it's crazy. I just show up for work and I'm a good person. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, you want a raise? And they're like, yeah, I'll take a raise, And then they're like, oh, you seem to be on time and caring and you're not mean and you don't cuss out your coworkers. Hey, you want to get a promotion? And then you're like, oh yeah, I'll take a promotion. All right. And you just get a promotion and you're like, all right, I'm just going to go be a good person. And then they're like, hey, by the way, you've been saving that money. You should buy a house. Oh, okay, I guess I'll buy a house. And then you're just living your life and then you run into somebody. You're like, you're cute. You're cute. Yeah. I like you. I like you. Let's date. Okay. And then you do all the work and then you're in a relationship and then you have a family. But that's not the goal. It's a byproduct, man. If making money is the goal, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of money. If having stuff is the goal, there's a lot of stuff to be had. But if the goal is just to be present and to be here, then that's never ending until the day I pass away, And that's really what this is about for me. I know that's deep, but when I really truly think about this, man, this process has taught me in a lot of ways, man, not just 12-step recovery, but meditation and yoga nidra and Buddhist monks and all the things that I've done, man, has really connected with me with who I am, And I've never experienced life the way I experience it now. I've never felt the way I felt now. And I hope next year when you sit down, if I do this podcast again, it's a different conversation because I've changed. Everything changes. The season changes, trees grow, things die. Am I changing with the world or am I stagnant? And I hope next year, if we ever sit down and have this conversation, that the answers I give you are different than the ones I have now. Because that means I've changed, good or bad, however you want to look at it, man. I don't judge things as good as bad. Things just are. I can't call it. I can't call it. I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe I think a flat tire is a bad thing. And then I watch somebody get in an accident right in the place where I would have been if I didn't get the flat tire.
Right.
You never know.
Yeah, you never do. Yeah, I love all those points that you hit. And I was taught in early recovery, just focus on my recovery and all that stuff will come. Exactly how you said. In my experience, watching people come in, if they're focused on getting back to work or whatever it is, you got to do those things. I get it. But if that's your main focus, hey, I have to leave treatment because I got to go to work, right? I can't focus on my recovery because I'm busy working 60 hours a week. It's that doesn't work from my experience, like what I've seen. Yeah. Nothing's like absolute, but yeah, that doesn't work from my experience. So what I was told, yeah, just focus on your recovery. You'll get the car, you'll get the money, you'll get the job, you'll get the relationship. And that's what happened. And I really need to kind of take a step back and remind myself on a regular basis. Cause now with 10 years sober, it's kind of, you know, you got a lot of stuff going on and it can be distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Life can be very distracting.
Yeah. But all this stuff we have is like directly from recovery. Cause like you said, I mean, I would be dead for sure. Yeah. So I wouldn't even be here. I'm like, yeah.
Drugs and alcohol saved my life.
Yeah.
It did. I didn't have a solution, and it was the first solution. And I don't know where I would have been if I wouldn't have found it. But then finding that led me into recovery, and recovery changed my life.
Mm.
Drugs saved my life. Recovery changed my life.
Recovery's so cool too, because it's like we have so many resources and connections. It's like, all right, you need a painter, we got a painter. You need a plumber, we got a plumber. You need an attorney, we got an attorney. You need a AC, we got AC. You name it. I was working with our general contractor when we were building out this new residential, and like every trade that he was like needed someone, because it's like there's a lot of trades where it's hard to get people in. I'm like, oh well, let me call this guy. He's like, how many friends do you have, dude?
A lot.
It's crazy, man. And on a daily basis, no matter what's going on in my life, I think what recovery's given me that I'm most grateful for, outside of the external stuff, but like internally, is just a gratitude for consciousness and like, what are we even doing here? And it's like, all right, I thank God every day, like for real. If I'm praying, and most days I'm thanking God for consciousness. Like, thank you for this opportunity to participate in this, whatever the hell it is.
Right. That's real.
It's a fucking trip, and I'm here. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what problems I'm facing. The fact that I'm conscious and we are like in this world, floating in the universe, or in the solar system, in the galaxy, in the universe, it's
crazy.
It's a fucking
percentage chances whatever you are, whatever it is that makes you would have landed in your body at this time with the experience that I mean, 1 in a trillion, 1 in trillions.
Well, yeah.
Enjoy the experience while you have it.
No, exactly. And so I am grateful for consciousness, and without recovery, I wouldn't even be aware that I was, I wouldn't even be like, none of that stuff. Like what I like to do at night, most nights is just cruise like YouTube, and a good percent of the times I'm watching like stuff on like the galaxy and like astrophysics, and it's like, dude, that ain't me.
Yeah, not at all. You wouldn't have been able to sit and look at it for the beauty that it was before. And that's the thing that I say for anybody out there struggling. I always talk, man, whenever somebody comes in there asking for help, I cut through all the bullshit. Oh, I got this. I'm like, dude, stop. What about this? And I'm like, stop. And they're like, what about? And I'm like, dude, when last time you were happy? Dude, that question, tears. When's the last time you were honestly happy? And it's like bawling. I don't remember. Cool, man. I am. They are. Welcome. Welcome to a new way of life. Welcome to a new perspective. That's the thing that we were all looking for, is like that internal, that thing, man. Yeah. And the world doesn't teach us to find that. Mm-hmm. It's not, our world isn't meant for us to like, it's like, get a job, get a car, get a house. Their thought process is that you already have that contentment, And for us, all the stuff that's happened, the trauma we've built up, all the stuff that's blocked us all from experience in life in one way or another, right? I don't know everybody's experience. Some people have big T, some people have little T. Some people don't have a lot of trauma. They were just disconnected from birth, right? Like whatever your experience is that led you to sitting in this seat or watching this video or looking for help, whatever your experience is, right? Looking for whatever connection, because you're looking for some connection. You wouldn't be watching this if you weren't looking for connection. You wouldn't be searching the terms that we're here going to find this video if you weren't looking for connection. The connection is here. You live it every day, but you can't feel it because there's something in between. We remove that. That thing gets removed. And all of a sudden you're in the world, and it's raw at first and uncomfortable You're like, ugh, it's like, I've never swam before. What is this? And then somebody's like, just do this with your arms. And you're like, okay, and they'll just kick your legs and you're like, okay. And before you know it, you're like, this is kind of fun. And they're like, yeah. And you're like, I've been in the water before. Why have I never experienced this? And they're like, because you were in the water, focused on everything else. Now we got you focused on just being in the water. And then it's just like slowly you get introduced back into life little by little through therapy, through some 12-step programs, through a bunch of things, meditation, prayer, connection with whatever it is you find, right? In whatever way you find it, it's not important exactly what you do. What's important is that you actually have some connection with whatever it is that you do. And it isn't built in what I think is going to happen as a result. It's truly built in just experiencing it for what it is and allowing it to be the way it needs to be for itself. Because things, I don't have much control. I have the illusion of control, which then blocks me off. It's like I'm walking up a mountain. Me and you walk up a mountain. We get to the top of the mountain and we're just looking at the most beautiful sunset or sunrise, whatever time of day it is. And I'm like, hey, did you see that flower? And you're like, what flower? I'm like, the flower up. When we hit the curve and we're at the Y and there was that rose bush. And you're like, I didn't see a rose bush. Same experience. We did the same thing. Two different experiences though, right? And our experience on top looking at that sunset or that sunrise could be completely different even though we're looking at the same thing. Because if I got blinders on and all I'm focused on is getting to the top of that mountain, I'm missing all the beauty on my way up. But if I'm just walking up and I'm just experiencing it, I'm just like, oh, look at the flower, look at the tree. And I just keep walking. I'm like, look at this. And you're just like, I got to get to the top. And I'm just like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's really cool. What kind of animal is that? And then all of a sudden, I'm just like at the top of the mountain. And I'm like, what is that sunrise? Oh my, I'm like, this is right. But if my experience is just getting to the top of the mountain because I want to conquer that mountain, I get to the top of the mountain, I see the sunset and I look out. And guess what I see when I look out? More mountains. Summoner's dilemma, man. I can keep climbing mountains trying to get to the top. Or I can just walk up that mountain to experience it for what it is. And that's what we've found, right? It's like we just live life to experience it. I got hopes and dreams and I want things to happen my way. And when I do that, life is a little empty. And when I'm just doing what's in front of me, because it's in front of me, I'm be all right. Taking the same actions. I'm going to take the same actions as if I planned it out and I had this like goal at the end, right? Same actions. I'm going to do the same thing. But my experience of those actions will be different if I'm taking those actions to get a specific outcome. But if I'm just taking those actions because they're the next indicated action, then I'm happy with whatever outcome comes. And that's just that little twist of our perspective.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of good nuggets in there, Marcus. I really appreciate you coming by and doing the podcast with me. And Marcus is the COO of Cornerstone Recovery, which is right down the street. It's a great program that we work with. And if you are struggling, please just reach out, whether it's to us, Cornerstone, Pinnacle Peak, your friend, your family, your minister, whoever it is, just reach out for help. But if people do want to get in contact with Cornerstone, maybe throw a plug in there.
If you want to get in contact with Cornerstone, just look us up, cornerstonehealingcenter.com.
Cool.
Yes,
awesome.
Sir.
Well, thank you very much, Marcus. I appreciate it, man.